When we left off in part 2 of this video, you had begun day 1 of your course. You began with a confident stance in front of your students. You remembered to breathe before speaking. Your opening remarks and your administrative points were very clear. Now, you just have to instruct for the rest of the course. Fortunately, ongoing successful instruction comes down to a few key points. So let's turn our attention to what those key points are. First, explaining material clearly. This is arguably the biggest concern for instructors. Whether you're lecturing or demonstrating, it's always important to have a beginning, middle, and ending. The beginning introduces the topic or lesson you're going to cover. The middle discusses the material and provides details. And the conclusion or ending restates key points. The trouble that instructors run into is smoothly presenting information and transitioning from one topic to another. So what's required in order to do this smooth transition is the integration of transitional phrases. Transitional phrases are very simply words or phrases that connect or bridge similar content or similar statements. So if we return to where we left off in part 2 of the video, you gave your opening remarks and covered your administrative points, and now you're about to begin a particular lesson. Again, like your opening remarks, you don't need to come up with some elaborate statement to begin a lesson. To begin a lesson, you can simply state, having covered the administrative points for the course, we're going to begin our first lesson, which is, and then you state the name of the lesson. Or you can state, if there aren't any questions about the administrative points we just covered, we're going to begin our first lesson, which is. That way, you give the students a chance to ask questions about the previous topic, and you link what you had just talked about, the administrative points, with the new topic that's coming up. The transition was smooth, and that's what you want, smooth and confident presentation of material. Perhaps the most useful of all transitional phrases are sequencing words. Words like first, second, third. Sequencing words allow you to not only organize material logically, if, for example, you're explaining a procedure or process, but it also gives the students the opportunity to organize their material as well. They can make sense of points that are listed, 1, 2, 3, as opposed to simply stating what points are. So the first, second, third sequencing words, very useful for organizing and greatly helps to explain material clearly. Other sequencing words are things such as next or following this point. Certainly they're not as specific as first, second, third, but it allows you to transition to your next point. It's useful when explaining how to use a new piece of kit to sometimes compare or contrast it with how an older piece of kit works. Students might be training on this new piece of kit, Kit A, and they have familiarity with the older piece, Kit B. So you can start out by talking about how Kit B operates, and then state, in comparison with Kit B, Kit A, and then you talk about the procedure you need to explain. So compare and contrast, stating in comparison with Kit A, Kit B operates this way, or in contrast to Kit A, Kit B operates this way. If you're explaining cause and effect, then use cause and effect words. For example, if this happens, then the result will be this. Or, as a result of this happening, we can expect this to happen. When you conclude your lesson, you have to provide some kind of wrap-up and restate key points. So you can state, in this lesson we looked at, and then state the main points that you covered. Or you can wrap up by saying, finally, and then move on to cover the key points. The issue of clearly explaining and using transitional phrases when instructing requires focus and attention to detail by the instructor. However, by integrating some transitional phrases into your lecturing or demonstrating, you'll more confidently and more smoothly present the course content to the students, which will mean you'll have more time to monitor the students' level of understanding. The second key to ongoing successful instructing is asking questions. As part of every course, instructors ask students about the course content. The intent of asking questions is to gauge the student's level of understanding. Simply asking questions to go through the exercise of asking questions, it will not be a successful approach. And for new instructors, asking good questions can be a challenge. There are two types of questions that we're going to look at. The first is closed question. For new instructors, closed questions provide the opportunity to maintain control of the discussion with the students. Closed questions usually come down to a yes or a no response, and they're very specific, fact-oriented. So, for example, closed question could be, does wire A connect to wire B? The answer will probably be yes or no, and then the instructor can provide feedback on why wire A does connect to wire B or why it does not. The second type of question is the open question. When you ask open questions, you're handing over control of the discussion to the student, at least temporarily. The response will probably not be yes or no to an open question. The response will be much more detailed depending upon the student's level of understanding. For example, if you're covering troubleshooting techniques, you might ask the students, what procedures can we follow to determine why the radio doesn't work? Now, whether you're asking closed questions or open questions, the technique is the same. First, ask the question. This will be followed by a period of silence as the students begin to think about their response. If there is no response, then you'll have to simplify the question. The student will answer. This will also be followed by a period of silence as other students listen and take in what they just heard from the student's response. After the period of silence, then discuss the answer. Keep in mind that you are asking questions to gauge your student's understanding. The questions you ask are not intended to put a student on the spot or to make an example of the student. The third key to successful instruction is providing clear directions to your students. Whether your students are doing a practical exercise or an assignment, it's essential that the directions they're provided be entirely clear. When you're providing directions, do not leave anything to chance. If you happen to leave out just one instruction, your students may respond accordingly, and you may be left wondering, why did that just happen? Why did my students respond this way? When you think about what you told them to do, you might realize, okay, I didn't fill in all the gaps with the proper directions. And they responded accordingly. So it's absolutely essential. Provide clear direction to your students. In this part of the video, we looked at 3 keys for ongoing successful instruction. First was explaining material clearly. Second was asking questions to gauge your students' level of understanding. And third was providing clear directions to your students. As experienced instructors know, perhaps all too well, second-guessing yourself as an instructor seems like an ongoing process. However, try to remember, don't be too hard on yourself, and good luck.